Grace Northridge. I'm northbound on I-10 right now going to work, but I just had the thought of tithing and all of that on my brain, and Matt asked me to kind of speak a little bit to that, so I wanted to take a minute and do that. First off, so I was raised in a Catholic church, and Sydney was raised Episcopalian. So for us growing up, tithing was pretty commonplace. I remember very specifically my dad would always have the check pre-written before we ever left the house. And so it was just kind of, that's what you did. You gave money to the church. And I didn't ever really know what that meant. But through my college years and through Sydney's college years, what we found out was that tithing was actually biblical. It was actually talked about in the Bible. First comes up in the book of Leviticus, talking about farmers and producers of the time giving 10% of their crop off the top as an offering to the Lord. Now, as we transition into the New Testament, we don't see the word tithing come up, but we see a major transition because Jesus shows up. And what we see is that 10%, which a Christian should, in my opinion, honestly view the 10% as a bare minimum. That is the bare minimum that you should give from what you have. But again, we look at the New Testament and we see that in Jesus' life, what we are asked to give is not 10%, but 100. And so that transitions from simply a financial transaction to the transaction of your life. And so that's where Sydney and I land on the tithing thing is, for us personally right now, we believe that what Grace is doing is good and right. We want to offer our 10% to the church, but also above and beyond that, we give to people that are on Young Life staff. We give to people that, or we have in the past, we've given to missionary friends who are overseas. And so all of that, all of our giving is done strictly through the lens of prayer. Lord, do you want us to give here? Do you want us to give there? Yes, no, let's go. And so in regards to Grace, if you feel called to be at this church, if you feel called to support the ministries that this church is involved in, then you need to be giving financially. If you don't, but you still feel like Grace is where you're supposed to be, is where your home church is, then you really need to pray and reevaluate why you don't feel called to give financially. I know that Britt, Michael Breimer, Matt Kessler, and a lot of other people at the church would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you and talk about that. Talk about it from a theological standpoint. Talk about it from an emotional standpoint. Talk about it from a financial standpoint. Can I afford to do this? I'm a single mom with one job. How do I do this? Or I'm rich beyond my wildest dreams, but I've never tithed and I'm scared. That's okay. But let's sit down and have honest conversations about that. So that's my encouragement to you, the church, is to open up your spirit and your mind and your heart to real, concrete conversations about finances and tithing, and look at what you're called to, what you're called to, and what the Lord is asking of you.